By the end of this video, you'll be able to go to your science teacher and tell her that Thomas Edison did not invent the light bulb, because he didn't. Thomas Edison actually made a revision to the light bulb. It was made about 39 years before his came out in the year 1840 by someone named Warren de la Rue. He's a European inventor. The issue is that his light bulb would get extremely hot, catch on fire, and burn out so quickly that people had a full-time job dedicated to just replacing light bulbs all day long. About 39 years after that, Thomas Edison revealed his version of the light bulb, which was a lot more practical, better for home use, did not explode into flames and burn people's houses down, and would not require a full-time job just by changing light bulbs 5 times a day. I'm exaggerating a little bit. This one's gonna hurt, but the apple didn't actually fall on Isaac Newton's head. Even though this is the narrative that we were told since we were little kids, that Isaac Newton, the guy that discovered gravity, unless you were sleeping under an apple tree this entire time, actually was just laying down, and as he took a nap, an apple fell off the tree, hit him in the head, fell on the floor, and he's like, oh my god, gravity exists. And that's the furthest thing from the truth, actually. What really did happen was the apple that it tasted so good I had to take a bite of it. What actually happened was Isaac Newton's family owned some apple trees, and he would look at the trees and think, why is it that the apples fall downwards and not sideways or upwards? Oh, maybe gravity is a thing. This one really made me mad. You don't actually lose the most heat from your head. When you were taught that from our parents, from our teachers, that if don't go outside without a hat on, because 40 to 45% of all of your heat is going to be dissipated through your head, and that's where you lose most of your heat, when in reality you don't lose more heat in your head than you do anywhere else throughout your body. Maybe let's say your head is 10% of your body, depending on how big your head is, then you only lose 10% of your heat from your head, because that's the proportion it is to your body. It's that simple. The next lie that school has taught you, and has taught to you as if it was a fact, when in reality it's nothing more than a baseless theory, if we're being honest, is that we have evolved from apes. School teaches us that our greatest grandfather and grandmother, thousands of generations before, were actually apes. Like, not human beings, but literal apes. This is called Darwin's theory of evolution. This is taught to us as if it's an actual real fact. Even though it is a theory, and they do say that in the books, when you're being taught something in school, they teach it to you as if it's always real. You go from growing up learning that whatever teacher says has to be right, to learning that we were once apes, which is the furthest thing, in my opinion, at least from the truth, because it's nothing more than a working model, a theory. The link has never actually been found to prove something like this. The leading theory claims that our source of all evolution came from a pond of amino acids that got heated from hydrothermal vents under the ocean floor, that eventually became and evolved into humans. That's how me and you are here today. Believing in God doesn't sound that crazy anymore, does it? If we look into our mitochondria, we have mitochondrial DNA. Now, this mitochondrial DNA can only be inherited from the mother. And so that means that there's no variation, and it can't get mixed up or undergo any sort of independent assortment. So that means that in every single modern day human, we can trace all mitochondria back to one woman. This is called the mitochondrial Eve. Now, the scientific explanation for this must have been that there was a genetic bottleneck where all women in the world must have ceased to exist except one fertile woman that had given birth to all of us, basically. So the Adam and Eve story doesn't sound that crazy anymore, does it? The oldest Homo sapiens skull was found in Jebel Urhud. We thought this was initially 40,000 years old. That was the oldest skull that we've ever found on this entire planet. But instead, with more recent data, we realized that it was not 40,000 years old. It was actually roughly 300,000 years old. The new data of the oldest skull of the world shakes up the evolution theory, because it shows that modern humans existed far longer than they thought we did. Which means that with these numbers, the timeline just doesn't make sense anymore. The basic building block of life is ATP. And in order to make one ATP, you need 2 ATP. So how was the first ATP ever created? This chicken and egg scenario is something that evolution cannot even begin to explain. If evolution was real, wouldn't we be surrounded by a bunch of different transitional forms of different creatures? And every time we try to find the missing link between humans and the apes, the link has never been found yet. And whenever someone does find it throughout history, it turns out to be a big fraudulent, deliberate hoax to make the person look like they actually did something good, or to gain notoriety or popularity, and to prove their own personal bias right, from the same evolutionary biologist that we should be trusting to find out what the truth actually is. It seems like personal bias is digging deeper and deeper into this theory, making it harder than ever to find out what true actually means. It's like it's its own religion at this point. In next week's video, I'm going to dive so much deeper into evolution theory and poke holes in every single flaw that I find. So if you're interested in that, stick around for next week's video by pressing the red subscribe button under this video. Listen, I don't ask you that often. Please subscribe. Please take care of your boy. I'm just asking you from my heart, bro. Please subscribe. The USDA food pyramid was wrong this entire time. When they used to force this down our throats down at the lunch table and say, look, this is how you should be eating food. We're going to serve you this much bread and some vegetables and fruits, a little bit of protein, and almost no fat at all, because fat is really bad for you. You know how the pyramid actually worked. And this was honestly couldn't be further from the truth. Even at the top, it says use oil sparingly. It makes no distinction between complex and simple carbs. For an example, white bread would be a simple carb that gets turned into glucose really fast for that quick instant energy, and wheat bread would keep you full for longer and not turn into glucose just as fast for more satiated throughout the day, and honestly help you lose more weight if you're going to take that route. The top part of it says use oil sparingly, so it's talking about the olive oil, coconut oil, animal fat, all of the above, because it was thought during this time that fat makes you fat, when in reality it doesn't. Having too many simple carbs, for an example, would make you fat. But instead, the whole notion here is that you should be using more heart-healthy choices like vegetable oil or corn oil or canola oil, and these are all not even near as healthy for you as something like a real natural fat would be, like olive oil or animal fat. There's more increasing studies in these recent years showing that these vegetable oils that are actually relatively new within these last 100 to 200 years are actually bad for us, and we should be consuming less of them. If you remember, there was a big fad going around where fat-free was the wave. Because of the USDA food pyramid, it made the notion that having natural fat was so bad for you. If you looked at any single item on the grocery store, it would be a low-fat or no-fat option, and instead they would just start pumping in a bunch of sugar so that it still tastes the same. Now you're taking an increase in sugar and a decrease in natural fat, which is honestly even worse for you and would give you a lot more weight gain than taking the natural product would. Even they knew they were wrong, because they dropped the food pyramid entirely and don't stand by it at all anymore, and made a whole new process called My Plate, which looks even more simple and isn't perfect by any means. While the dairy industry spent a whopping $7.12 million on lobbying. They've done such a good job with their millions of dollars to a point where they can actually make you believe in something that has no scientific basis and doesn't even exist. For an example, did you know, and I'm going to say this, and I'm probably going to piss you off by saying this, but milk doesn't make your bones stronger. So now you're thinking, where do we get such a miraculous claim that has no basis whatsoever? Well, the dairy industry was actually giving out free education to schools around the country, saying, hey, take these brochures and pamphlets so that you can teach your kids about healthy nutrition from us. There's no bias, I promise. It's not going to tell you to drink 3 servings of milk of dairy every single day, and it's necessary for you to drink dairy every day, when in reality, Stanford says it's not needed. They just got us to believe this so we can consume more of it and make more money off of us, because we're all dumb little pawns. Damn. My second grade teacher told me that bats are blind, when in reality, some bats can see better than human beings. Bats use echolocation, especially at night, so that they can have an accurate detail of what's in front of them, because just like us, they can't see at night. Human beings use 10% of their brain, and if they were to actually use the full 100%, you would have some crazy telekinesis superpowers, when in reality, we do use the 100%. Maybe you don't. Now, this last one really hits home for me, because it's what I was taught. It's actually what we were all taught. When you first go into school, the first year of you being there, it is already thought and assumed that you're going to go to college after high school. When you walk into that hellhole for the first time, if you tell anybody that you're not planning on going to college, which is absolutely okay and definitely an option, you're looked at super frowned upon. Like, really? You just want to be a loser your whole life and go clean dishes? With dedication, a firm plan, and full belief and conviction in myself to achieve what I want to in life, I made YouTube videos and dropped out of college. This was my choice. It doesn't have to be yours, but look at me as proof. You don't have to go to college to be successful, to make money, to be whatever you want to be in life. Maybe if you want to be a doctor, kind of have to, or you want to be a lawyer, you also kind of have to. But for the majority of other jobs, find what makes you tick. Find what gives you purpose. Find what makes you wake up in the morning and not need to have a blaring alarm clock every single time to wake you up because your life is depressing, going to your 9 to 5 that you hate because your teacher in high school told you that you have to go to college to make money and be successful. And if you don't, that's so sad. Aw, you want to go pick up garbages? Funny thing is, the garbage man actually makes more money than my teacher. One lesson that you should take from this video is that you should question everything. Just because someone told you something 3 or 4 times and you've heard it very frequently, it doesn't mean that it's an actual fact. It very well could mean that a big time corporation paid millions of dollars to get you to believe something that's actually false to be true, so you can spend more money and consume more of their product. Be vigilant and stay lucid. Stay dreaming, stay lucid. I'm out. Peace.